Hey, T-Birds fans, Ryan Smith here. Another installment of our Thunderbird Thursday Town Hall presented by MassMutual. Joining me today is the marquee addition to the St. Louis Blues / Springfield Thunderbirds organization this offseason, reigning scoring champion in the American Hockey League at the time of the pause this past March, former Iowa Wild standout and former Quinnipiac Bobcat, Sam Annis, joining us. Sam, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, of course. It's an exciting time, and hopefully we're meeting in person soon enough and starting to get back to playing some real hockey here.
And how. Now, as you entered this offseason as a UFA, coming off a 70-point season, what drew you specifically to St. Louis as a destination? Was it them reaching out to you? Was it a place that you and your agent had on your mind? What kind of went into that decision and that process?
It was mainly them reaching out to me. I kind of always, in my mind, hoped that I would end up with a team from the same division that I played in last year in the Central Division, and just kind of hoping that they would have a good understanding of the type of player I am. And I think that worked out perfectly. And once free agency came and the kind of craziness that comes along with it and talking to teams and stuff, I was very happy that St. Louis was in the mix and just seemed like a great fit for me.
Now, last year, and anyone who reads your stat line obviously can tell that everything came together for you. And it wasn't really your first breakout season in the American League either, but being the leading point producer in the league with the leading goal scorer, Jerry Mayhew, on your line, what kind of allowed you to have that amount of success? I'm sure Jerry played quite a hand in that, but how did you really feel your game coming together? And at what point did you realize that it was turning into a pretty special year?
Yeah, I think with anyone when they have a good year, a lot of it has to do with chemistry and just kind of riding hot streaks, things like that. So Jerry and I had played together 2 years before, and then we both had good years that year. And then we didn't really play together last year. And then this year, 1920 year, we were line mates and just kind of both took off. And we just had such good chemistry on and off the ice. We lived together 2 years ago. And so we're good buddies, and just being on such a good team, I think helps too. And with so much depth, I think other teams can't really focus on one or two players when we had a lot of assets and threats. And with a good power play, obviously it's things like that are helpful to get points. And just, yeah, this is a good year and hoping to keep that going into next year.
Now you jump, and it would have been a divisional rival jumping to another team in the division, except for the whole realignment process, and we can get into that in a couple of minutes. But first and foremost, you got to play against the St. Louis Blues affiliates the last 4 seasons within the same division. You got to see a lot of these guys on the other side of the ice. What do you know about this team that will make fans in Springfield and you, on a personal level, excited to be part of their group?
Yeah, I always thought that San Antonio last year and the last few years, they're always a tough team to play against. They've got some skill up front, but they're also very hard-nosed and kind of in your face. So I think it's kind of a good fit for me personally too, and meshing with some of those guys. And so I'm just really excited to be playing with them and hopefully get a good year going with everyone.
Any particular guy, maybe a blue liner, who you're happy you don't have to see them on the other side of you for 20 minutes a night?
Maybe not a blue liner, but I guess Cairo a couple times gave me a couple minuses and kind of had some good laughs about that. And I actually used to play with Nathan Walker in Youngstown when he first came to North America. So we're pretty excited to be reunited.
Now, you've made your hockey living off of your ability to provide offensive punch in spite of being considered undersized. And I know you probably had to hear that for much of your life growing up and growing into a professional. How much of a chip on a shoulder does being called undersized really give someone in your shoes? Or is it something you try not to think about what others think and you go about things your own way?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've heard it my whole life and I still hear it to this day. And I've just done whatever I can to prove everyone wrong, that I can make it a step to the next level, whether it was jumping from high school to USHL or USHL to college to pro, and now hopefully AHL to NHL at some point. It's just, there's always been doubters at the next level that I'll be able to handle it, or things will be too big, or just obstacles like that. And I've been able to fight through and overcome and kind of prove those doubters wrong. So it's something that I've just really embraced as part of who I am. And doesn't I don't really think of myself as trying to fight an uphill fight. It's just kind of who I am and how I've become.
Talking with Sam Annis on Thunderbird Thursday Town Hall presented by MassMutual. Now, Sam, signing with St. Louis means you could very well be playing American Hockey League games in the New England area whenever hockey resumes. Of course, you on a personal level and us on a personal level for your own success would love to see your trend of keeping on proving them wrong at one level to the next. We'd love to see that continue all the way to St. Louis. But if the American Hockey League is part of that journey here in the near future, you're going to be playing games a little less than an hour up the road from where you went to school at Quinnipiac. And I'm sure if you ever look at the Bridgeport Sound Tigers roster and you see about 6 or 7 of your former teammates within their organization, they seem to be all over the place in this division. I've asked this to a few of the other guys, Nolan Stevens included, on this roster. How much more beneficial is it going to be? And I'll ask this in a few parts. A, to be playing in a division where you'll get more nights in your own bed and more practice time on the ice. And B, you on a more personal level, getting to see a lot of familiar faces as competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked to guys that have played in the East for a while, and they say it's a totally different travel schedule, and it's just the two conferences are almost two different leagues with how different the travel is and how much of a blessing it can be on your body and things like that. We had a lot of early morning flights and late night travel and stuff, so it'll be nice to have only short bus rides and things like that besides the occasional long trip. But yeah, and it'll be fun to play against some old buddies and old opponents too. I think it kind of gives you a little extra pep in your step and a little excitement in playing out there. But once the puck drops, everything I think is the same. It's just business as usual. But I am excited to see some familiar faces out there.
Do you ever think about things like getting the better of your old buddies or your old rivals that you see once again? How much of that kind of bulletin board material is that kind of a myth in locker rooms, or is there something to be taken from that?
I think it's something you think about before and after the game. At least for me, if I'm playing against someone that I used to play against or I used to play with, it's exciting before the game, and after the game, you kind of think about it. But during the game, at least for me, I'm not really focusing on who specifically that is, or I want to do this against him just because he played here or this and that. So I think it's just something that for me is exciting to look at before the game and after the game.
The one thing that everybody, myself, you, your coaching staff, your teammates, front office personnel, the one thing everybody's been dealing with right now is just how everything has sort of had to pause and everything's had to be on the back burner a little bit. So I've asked this of Drew Bannister, of Kevin McDonald, of Nolan Stevens, and I'll ask you as well. What's been the hardest part of just being in a holding pattern and a waiting game? Obviously, you can skate, you can keep your body in shape and healthy as much as humanly possible, but you can't really recreate that game situation. How much antsiness is there in all of this?
Yeah, and I think probably the hardest part is there's no timeline set for when the return date is. Usually, okay, we have camp starting September 13th or whatever it might be, and you got a couple of weeks left, and just that excitement starts building up and building up. And now it's just kind of tough. You're not really sure when it might be. We might get a call tomorrow and say, hey, we got camp in 3 weeks, and I'll be ready to go. I'm eager to get back on the ice and start playing some real hockey. I've obviously been skating and training, but nothing compares to the everyday routine of practice and getting ready for games and playing actual games. That's what I'm most excited about.
Well, I can assure you, Sam, there are thousands of folks in Springfield that are very excited to see you and all of these brand new faces. It'll be like getting to know a whole entire new group coming into the MassMutual Center. I guess my next question for you, with that in mind, is how much have you learned maybe from your Bridgeport former teammates at Quinnipiac? What have you kind of learned about Springfield, about the market, its lengthy history in the American League, the building, and things of that nature that could very well, at some point down the line, be a place where you see yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely talked to a bunch of guys, and they've all. I didn't really know much about the Thunderbirds, and just kind of that's how life was in the West. Iowa, we didn't cross over with the Eastern Conference at all, which was unfortunate. But yeah, everyone's had great reviews about the city and the building, especially, and how great the fans are and how loud the building really gets. And it's something that as a player, you really thrive off that energy. So I think it's something that maybe if you, especially your team scores that first goal early, or there's a big fight and the crowd gets going, it really can carry a team and provide some extra spark.
Well, you'll certainly be in the middle of where everyone's looking out on the ice. You'll be a player looked upon to be a big-time leader on this team. Have you kind of given some thought as to now you're going to be a fifth-year pro, and perhaps there'll be a higher leadership role for you now, whereas you're getting your feet wet your first 2 seasons in the league, and then we saw you turn a corner in your 4th. Have you kind of taken a step back to think about how you're going to be one of the guys looked up to, not just for point production, but to sort of be a mentor of sorts for the rookies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's being a leader is a role that I've always enjoyed, and just kind of seems to come naturally to me. I think whether it was a young kid coming into Iowa and just moving in and needing help with getting to know the area or trying to figure out where to live and things like that, it's just I would always like to help out, and it's just something that to me is part of being a good teammate. And I think that's one of the most important things in being a player. And not only that, but in being able to be around in the league, in these leagues for a while. I think if you're not a good teammate, then that rep gets out pretty quick. And it's something I take pride in being a good teammate and always putting the team first. And I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone and helping out some guys in whichever way possible.
Talking with Sam Annis on Thunderbird Thursday, presented by MassMutual. Sam, I want to change directions a little bit, and there are a number of fans in our market who are very well aware of the Thunderbirds' very strong connections and involvement with Hockey Fights Cancer, the initiative that the NHL and by extension the AHL have been really involved with since the Thunderbirds entered the league in 2016. I know we have a lot of fans who do their research and read up on the newcomers into the marketplace and the organization. Well, when it comes to Hockey Fights Cancer in particular, there are some folks in our market who are not really familiar with your family's story especially. And it's one that, for better, for worse, is a story that I think a lot of people will take a lot of perspective from it. So I want to give you the floor to speak as much as you would like to your family's all too personal battle with cancer.
Yeah. So my mom went through a long fight with cancer and over the last 23 years and multiple rounds, and she had breast cancer 3 times and beat it every time. And then this past year they found a tumor in her lung and then a tumor in her brain not long after that. And unfortunately she passed away this summer, and it was very tough on us. It's something that she always put being a mom first, and she never let her weaknesses be seen to anyone besides herself, especially to her kids, which was probably the most admirable thing. And no matter how tough things were for her, she never let it be known to us. And she always was a mom first, and it's something that was a big part of our family. And I've always been done whatever I can to raise money or do anything involved in the Hockey Fights Cancer and breast cancer awareness or Pink in the Rink and those things. And it's something that's means a lot to our family. And obviously now with what's happened, and it's something that will mean a lot more in the future. And I look forward to meeting other people in Springfield that maybe have gone through a similar situation, or they're going through a battle right now, and everyone's here. We're in this fight together, and it's tough, but there's always people that are willing to help.
One thing that we've discovered from anybody within the organization who has had ties is the inspiration and the strength that they pull from stories like these is just so evident in really everything they do. And I think you kind of touched upon this already, but when you think of your mother, what is the greatest life lesson she ever taught you?
She was just extremely selfless. I think I said before, she never let anyone know how she was hurting or things like that. So I think she always put being a mom first. She never cared about anything else, and was just put her kids first, her husband first, and was just extremely selfless. And it's a way I choose to model my life after her. And and honor her in any way, shape, or form. I think she probably got more excitement watching me play hockey than many other, just about anything else in the world. And it's something that she really loved and became a part of her life.
Well, Sam, we at the Thunderbirds are thrilled to tell you that in her memory, we are putting together a Springfield Thunderbirds Hockey Fights Cancer jersey with your name and your number 7 on the back, which will be raffled off to a lucky winner in the Springfield community. And all of the funds raised through that raffle drive will go directly to Hockey Fights Cancer, as well as to local organizations in the Springfield area. We could not be prouder of you. We haven't even seen you on the ice yet. And we couldn't be prouder of you for the strength that you and your family have shown throughout all of this. So we really wanted to make sure we did that for you.
Well, thank you. It means a lot. And I'm sure it's something that will mean a lot to not just to me and my dad and my sister, but to everyone in our family and a lot of friends. It was, she had a big support staff, and we didn't even realize it until she passed, how many people she really had touched with her battle and her fight. And we had a lot of support, which was great. And for anyone going through it, there's more people here for you than you think.
And that message will echo throughout Springfield and the entire Pioneer Valley. Sam, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us, not just about the excitement for the hockey season, but for so much more than that. Again, Sam Annis, newcomer to the St. Louis Blues and Springfield Thunderbirds organization. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And Sam, thanks so much again for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to meeting everyone.